Hello, niggas.
Hello, niggas.
Hello, niggas.
I want each and every one of you to ask yourself a question. Like, am I a nigga?
Are you a nigga?
When I was 9 years old, I was convalescing from rheumatic fever. And I was the only black kid in this convalescent home in Long Island. And the kids were abusive, these little white kids. And they were calling me nigger so much I couldn't stand it. And one day they called me nigger, and I started crying. And I went running into the head nurse. And she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "The kids are calling me a nigger." And she said, "Well, aren't you a nigger?"
Am I a nigga?
Am I a nigga?
The first time I was called a nigger by somebody white was I was on a picket line in 1960. And somebody white in the car drove by and said nigga out the window loud. And that was the first time.
From Kenner, Louisiana. Railroad tracks separate the black and the white folks.
These niggas, they're niggers.
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 Nigger? I've been in many fights over that. Handed some ass whippings out and received some.
We're gonna kill you, nigga, run.
Run, nigga, run.
First time somebody called me a nigger was second grade, first day of school. Little white girl, her name was Carol. I'll leave out her last name. And it wasn't even like mean, it was like, "Hi, nigger."
What's the name of this cat?
Nigger.
We lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I was probably one of 350 kids at this elementary school, and I was black, and there was this little white boy that used to chase me home and call me a nigger.
Honey, what's this black world coming to?
And I remember going home and I remember saying, "Mom, what does this word mean?" Because I had never heard the word with such vengeance.
Nigger, go home now.
White boy we walking down the street, niggas go home. All that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? But we didn't do nothing but pick up rocks and throw it.
Nigga, 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 nigga. Don't say nigga.
I was probably crawling the first time somebody called me nigger, and it was probably in my house because I've heard it all my life, and it was probably, I either did something wrong and somebody said it to me as nigga stop doing that, or somebody said, "That's a cute little nigga."
Am I a nigga? And if the answer is yes, don't be ashamed to admit you're a nigga.
No.
I remember the first time I heard it, and I've never been really offended by it. Because the first time I heard it came out of somebody's black mouth.
Once you get a job, nigga, be respectful.
Niggas ain't acting like colored people, and we can't stand that.
Then when I heard a white person say it, and like in the name calling, and it was like, it was used as a weapon, and too late for me. I'd heard it. It didn't do anything for me.
It's the nigga in you that turns you black. Black! Once you learn to hate it.
Hate it?
You know what? I can't remember anyone ever calling me a nigga. I guess, not in a derogatory fashion. I can't even actually think of anybody calling me a nigga to my face that were within hearing distance ever. Who's gonna call you a nigga in New York? Nobody, except, other niggas.
Die, nigga!
Why you brothers and sisters? Nigga. That's all I hear you motherfuckers talking about is nigga.
I think the music is a little bit hard.
I ain't no nigga. Does everything out your mouth have to be a four-letter
The
word?
way you talk about women is bullshit.
What are you motherfuckers doing for the community anyway? Motherfucker, I got kids. I don't want them listening to that bullshit. Fuck the niggas. You motherfuckers need to stop. How could you call yourself a nigga and be proud of it?
Flatline.
It's hard to hurt me with words.
I had never heard the word with such vengeance. What does this word mean?
The first thing you need to know about me is I'm a nigga.
Who's gonna call you a nigga in New York? Nobody, except other niggas.
Niggas going nowhere.
He's black. He's brutal. He's boss.
They call him boss.
I have let people know that I'm an actor, I'm a nice guy, and there are a lot of things that we can get along with, but the first thing you need to know about me is I'm a nigga. And they look at me like, what? And I go, I'm not just, you know, a really nice colored fella. I'm a nigga. And they go, well, Sam, I really don't understand. It's like, I'm one of those guys you really, really, really don't want to mess with. So I've done things that, you know, people go to prison for, I guess, or I'm really, you know, not gonna just, you know, punch you in the face. I'm gonna do some niggardly shit to you.
Y'all niggas, and you gonna be niggas forever, just like us, niggas. You're not niggas.
Well, you know, I come from a different time, so yeah, nigga was around like that nigga's crazy. And Richard Pryor had his album. So of course cats would use it in the hood, in the corners.
There used to be some beautiful black man would come through the neighborhood dressed in African shit, you know, really nice shit, you know, and they'd be, peace, love, black is beautiful. Remember the essence of life. We are people of the universe, and life is beautiful. My parents go, that nigga crazy.
But it was also a time where if you called somebody, yo, what up, nigga? You know, cats was like, why I gotta be a nigga today? Because there was a certain level of consciousness that people felt that nigga was demeaning. And they said, you know, damn, you know, why you dissing me like that?
I'm talking about black people like you, nigga.
Most of my friends are my generation. I mean, I'm 55. And we all decry the use of it. And yet sometimes we're fiddling around, we say it. Sometimes. But we all kind of bemoan the fact that it's used with such regularity by younger people. But that may be just old guys bitching about being old.
Bullshit. Why do I call myself a nigga, you ask me? Well, that's because I'm all about that cash, G.
Our community has been using the word and sort of trying to redefine the context of it for a long time. And a lot of people make the argument that it's destructive. It is in a lot of ways, but the fact of the matter is that there's a large segment of black people who grew up hearing the word intended as nothing but like love.
Nigga, please, she was smiling at me, not you. You? That's right. Man, she's way too happening for a nigga like you.
The history, the racism, the politics of it, that's what, you know, is at issue. It's not the word. Because, you know, as we know, words change over time. They can have different meanings, be used in a different context.
Not you again, nigga. I told you, he called me a nigga. Jordan? JT.
Nigga, it's like brother.
Jordan isn't a brother.
Jordan is my friend.
It's become a term of infection. Just like dope, and it's a slang word, and you know, this is my man, it's my homie, it's my homeboy, it's my dog, this is my nigga. What's up, player? What's up, boss? What's up, pimp? What's up, nigga? You don't, it's just one, it's a list. You just pick one.
You gotta chill with that nigga shit, man. I mean, I know you comfortable with me and shit, but you can't just be calling me nigga in front of other black people. They gonna be like, why you letting the honky call you nigga, my brother?
In a social situation, I'm uncomfortable hearing it. With black and white people in a group. I've done it a couple of times and I felt like I shouldn't have done it. And not so much because I felt like I was wrong to use it, but I felt like I made the white people at the table uncomfortable. And I could feel that, I could see them stiffen up, like how are they, because you know, especially in a comfortable social situation, but not intimate friends. You know, it's one thing to play basketball in an integrated setting and say, come on nigga, throw me the ball. It's another thing to be at a dinner in a nice restaurant with a mixed group of people and go, that nigga I hate that nigga.
So do you think we should stop using it?
We're not gonna stop using it. We must take away the power the word has. We can't, we gotta demystify the word. You can no longer allow someone who doesn't know you, who who may want to trigger you to say the word and you lose your cool. Truth is, you're not gonna stop people from saying the word. Especially when you say it as much as when we say it, as much as we say it. Now you and I, just a minute ago, sitting over in that corner having our own private conversations, we refer to each other, nigga, you crazy, nigga, you crazy. We'll do it, you know what I'm saying? It's what we do. And like I say, it's a word that we use with love and affection. So we're not gonna stop saying the word. And we're not always gonna look around and make sure ain't no white people around. Hey, nigga, listen here, you know what I'm saying? We're not gonna do that either.
Nigga. It's a very dangerous animal. A lot of people have tried to flatten it. Since I can remember in show business, Mom Smably, Big Meat Markham, Slappy White, Red Fox, Richie Pryor, have all tried to flatten it so it wouldn't have the meaning and stuff, but it does have the meaning. It is designed to be derogatory, and it is an expression of hate. And as I said, with significant tone, it has the ability inside the family, I think, to be the most affectionate and loving or the most hostile. All you got to do is change the AZ or the GA to the ER, and it's still right back where we started.
As for example, Mr. Haley. He thought first of Tom's length and breadth and height, and what he would sell for if he was kept fat and in good case till he got him into market. He thought of how he should make out his gang. He thought of the respective market value of certain men and women and children who were to compose it, and other kindred topics of the business. And then he thought of himself, and how humane he was. That whereas other men chain their niggas hand and foot both, he only put fetters on the feet and left Tom the use of his hands, as long as he behaved well. And he sighed to think how ungrateful human nature was, so that there was even room to doubt whether Tom appreciated his mercies. He had been taken in so by niggas whom he had favored. But still, he was astonished to consider how good-natured he yet remained. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe.
We came here in a situation of duress that was very different from any other group of people. The formation of our group has been around that word.
They certainly worked like niggers as they cleared away the ant heap for me to take off.
I say this to people who say, you know, we all had to come over to this country and be as some of my mothers were. I say, you weren't brought over in the hold of a ship, and half of them died on the way. And you weren't whipped and so forth, and your wife wasn't raped, and then you were fucking hung. You know, I say, man, it's a different deal. Slavery is what makes that word more electric.
Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of this.
Word. The origin of the word nigga.
Nigga, nigga, nigga.
I'm not really aware of the etymology of it, but I assume that it comes from Negro.
Nigga, 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 nigga. It derived from Niger.
Well, that's close.
It's a slang.
South American, Brazilian origin, I think. They just put the twang on it.
5 local niggers. It grew out of that into something else, from which nigger grew from Negro.
I don't know.
I'm sure it's prehistoric almost.
I mean, I've seen a bunch of explanations, but none of them, I never bought any of them.
Who knows where it came from? I think some guy just said, hey, nigga, and that was it.
The term nigger has been traced back to the 17th century, and etymologists believe that it's derived from the Latin word for black, N-I-G-E-R.
The first 20 slaves who were brought to Jamestown were called negers, which is Dutch.
Now, the Dutch were using the word neger. And now, if you notice, that's how it was said, and this was not a literate culture, the slave trade culture.
Over the years, that term was written in other places. The spelling of the word also changed. You would later see it N-E-G-E-R. You would see it N-I-G-G-O-R.
If the Spanish and the French initially meant negre to mean black and didn't have a derogatory term, we don't really know that.
But clearly by the first third of the 19th century, you begin to see the word written in print as N-I-G-G-E-R. And so that was the version or the spelling of nigger that persisted right on through the 19th and right on through the 20th century.
Oxford English Dictionary definitions. Nigger jockey. A gentleman that trades in niggers. He buys them in one state and sells them in another where they are not known. Niggery. Of or belonging to the characteristic of Negroes. Niggerize. To treat with contempt or act or dress up as a Negro. Nigger corner. The part of a public building in which Negroes were confined, or a corner where niggas hang out. Nigger stick, an officer's baton. Nigger heaven, the top gallery of a movie theater. Nigger rich, payday.
It's a word that has many meanings. Many words have many meanings, and nigger is no exception. Definition 1 is a word that a white or another non-African American person uses to indicate that a black person is of inferior caste.
If you two ever really started going at one another, inside of 5 minutes, he'd be calling you. Don't say it. Nigga. He said it.
Okay, it's just a word. And words are words, but what comes right after the word is the activity. And the activity of being treated like a nigger is always in the air.
Even when we've had our worst fights, you've never called me nigger.
That doesn't mean it never crossed my mind.
People call you nigga all the time without saying it. Every day. Just on how on their actions and how they treat you.
So we went home, we was going home, and my brother jumped up and told me I was a nigger. And I looked at this sucker because I didn't know what a nigga was, you know. But these white boys, they identified with him because he was light-skinned. Dig? So he went in and he told my mother that I was a black nigger and that he was a white boy.
Well, you know something?
You did? Well. But see, my mother's bad. My mother checked that out and so she said, okay, cool, well then I'm not your mother because all my kids are niggas.
Definition 2, and I think of this as just as legitimate and alive as definition 1, is word used as an affectionate leveler among African Americans, mainly male ones. And in that, we're just human. There are many words in many languages which are used in that exact same meaning. Russian men often will talk about the positive qualities of being what they call a mujik. A mujik is a peasant. The original terminology was a rather lowly person.
When I got in the service and I began to hang close with the black, day in, day out, night in, night out, I would hear the affectionate use of it between blacks that you hear today, and that's one of the things people say. Well, they can say, hey, nigga, what are you doing? It's just, it's hey, motherfucker. It's the same as hey, you. Hey, nigga, what's going on? But the trouble is, the word didn't come from that. It came from, you know.
We use it with love, with our friends, within our family, but we would never say it someone that we didn't know at all. Like, nigga, come here. Excuse me, who are you talking to? No. In our family, we say it as love.
When somebody say, hey, that's my nig right there. What's that mean? Slave masters said it forever. Hey, what you doing with that? That's my, it's a bad mentality. It's a bad thing that goes back. And a lot of times we forget exactly what it is.
It's not a negative term, when I'm, saying it to my boys, It's just like, when sometimes I say, oh, what's up, motherfucker? It's like, it's just a friendly, friendly banner.
But in my day-to-day speech, do I use nigger or nigga? No, I have friends who do. I have friends who embrace me. Good to see you, my nigga. Am I upset with them? No. Do I say to them, good to see you, my nigga? No, I don't.
I think it only bothers me in the historical sense. It only bothers me that it shows me they don't really have an appreciation for what those who went before them suffered and the things they fought for. And how, for the people who went before, for many of them, it was a small battle to get people to stop using that.
When I use it is usually when I talk to my girlfriend. Okay. Because somebody's usually not acting right. And then we gotta go there.
Definition 3 is another one current among African Americans, which is a class designation, which is to imply that the nigger is an African American who doesn't know how to behave.
Anytime a brother would shoot another brother in his own neighborhood, then go to his funeral and turn over his own casket, they need to have the police down there. Cause see, the niggas is NAACP and niggas ain't acting like colored people, and we can't stand that.
I've heard blacks use the word nigger. I've heard them use it to distinguish among different kinds of blacks. You know, he's a, well, I don't know what they would say about the guy who, but the guy who they felt his behavior was more, I don't know, more damaging to their cause or whatever. But so that's interesting to me.
I love black people, but I hate niggas, boy. Oh, I hate niggas. Boy, I wish they let me join the Ku Klux Klan.
You know, it's weird if I get mad at a black person and say nigger, if I say, you know, so-and-so, what was that nigga thinking? It's weird, because I'm also, not only am I mad at that particular black person, I'm mad at that black person for doing that thing. And I'm also know that that action will affect me in some way.
The nigga will say some shit like, I ain't never been to jail. What, you want a cookie? You're not supposed to go to jail, you low expectation having motherfucker.
I know that it only takes a few people to mess it up for a bunch of people.
Definition 4 is one that's becoming quietly but increasingly prevalent among non-African Americans, which is a term that you see particularly Asian teens and Latino teens using among one another to imply another one of these leveling effects, which is my good friend who's no better or no worse than me. This is an A-OK kind of person.
White kids today want to be cool, and black has always been cool. Being black has always been cool, you know? And if that's a word that the coolest kids are using, then the white kids are gonna adopt that word.
I have to chuckle. I have to chuckle. That's actually Greek for chuckle. I have to chuckle because it is so labored, you know? It is so labored. It's like, I'm getting ready to use a word. You know, it's not part of a flow. You know, it's not part of it's a statement rather than a part of a lyric. It's a statement. See me, I'm being controversial. You know, it's like, okay.
I'm so casual with it, you know, but I'd be damned if I let anybody else call me it that's not black. I mean, isn't that something? It's so hypocritical.
That's how words work. Nigger, just because it tends to bother us in some ways, is not an exception. It has many meanings, and it's going to be very difficult to legislate, or even socially legislate, against the development of those different meanings. It's not just a piece of verbiage on paper, it's a live thing.
The white folks ain't got no reason to mistreat the colored people. They need us all the time. They don't want no food unless a nigga cooks it. They want niggas to do all they washing and ironing. They want niggas to do they sweeping and cleaning and everything around their houses. The niggas handle everything they wears and hands them everything they eats and drinks. Ain't nobody can get closer to a white person than a colored person. If we wanted to kill them, they'd have all been dead. There ain't no reason for white people mistreating colored people. Ellen Brass, former slave, Little Rock, Arkansas.
It was a word that's conveyed to black people that they were nothing. And so that was the essence of the word. You're reduced to nothingness. It doesn't matter how much education you have, how many degrees you've earned, how much money you have, how much influence or affluence you may have attained, that the highest black person can never be equal to the lowest white person. You are still a nigger.
These niggers ain't got no business in this school.
We're white people. We don't want them to go to school with niggas.
It was an insult that earlier generations of African Americans had to accept. They had to take it because you raise your voice or your hand in protest, and you would get a visit from the hooded white thugs in the middle of the night.
When your oppressor has all of the might, physical might, all the laws, all the courts, all the prisons, all the jails, all the money, what do you have to fight with? Words become bullets, as the last poets would say.
Niggas are scared of revolution, but niggas shouldn't be scared of revolution because revolution is nothing but change.
Part of the so-called modern rise of the civil rights movement, concomitant is the rise of the black consciousness movement.
We will continue the protest in the same spirit of love and nonviolence and passive resistance.
The resistance. Young people will begin to resist not only the use of the word nigger, we begin to resist the word Negro. We begin to resist the segregation.
Soon, lunch counters in 65 cities were filled with black students calmly insisting on service. They were served up words of hate.
I said, I'm sorry, our management does not allow us to serve niggers in here.
Nigger was stigmatizing for the target of the term. It also, pretty early on, was sometimes viewed as stigmatizing for the speaker, because nigger was viewed as a sort of term that poor people, less well-educated people used.
They don't want no nigger.
No nigger.
No nigger.
Strom Thurmond, white supremacist, demagogue, never said nigger. There were other white supremacist segregationists who would not have thought of saying nigger, would have been just, how D-class say. They didn't use nigger. That was what poor white trash used. They didn't use it.
Later on, in the 60s, there would be a gradual change in the way the word was used. And it would also be a way that the so-called better class of whites would try to distance themselves from what they perceive to be the lower class of whites. The better class of whites don't say the word nigger, so they would begin to say negro.
Niggers.
And of course, blacks strongly objected to that because they thought it was very close to nigger, the N-word. But the whites, Southern whites, oh no, that's not the same thing.
Damn nigger.
But the word nigger itself persisted throughout the 60s, and there were a lot of white Southern politicians sort of galvanized around the segregationist platform. Who gets elected is often determined by who is perceived as the most racist.
Lyndon Johnson is the biggest nigger lover in the United States. Amen. He may think that he can use his Justice Department with Bobby Kennedy at the head of it, and he may think that he can use J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and the Army to force us white people here in St. Augustine and other parts of the nation to mix up with niggers. But if he sends troops in here and puts a bayonet behind every one of us, we still will not mix up with a bunch of black savages.
Whoever yelled it the loudest, whoever yelled it the most frequently, 9 times out of 10 would be the one who would prevail in the election contest.
If they say, well, you can't have a poll tax, they can say you can't have a gas tax or a cigarette tax, anything else. The federal government's telling the states pretty tough what their business is. Now, you can say that they can't discriminate, but I've got to prove that it discriminates, and I can't prove it in Texas. There are more niggers voting there than there are white folks. There are more of them buying poll taxes than there are white folks. Higher percentage of them. And I can't show that the literacy test is discriminate against because they haven't got any. They got no test at all. Just by God, anybody that can get up and pay $1.06 can vote.
Congress passes the most sweeping civil rights bill ever to be written into the law, and thus reaffirms the conception of equality for all men that began with Lincoln and the Civil War 100 years ago. The Negro won his freedom then. He wins his dignity now.
Christ is a nigger, beaten and black. Oh, bare your back. Mary is his mother, Mammy of the South. Silence your mouth. God is his father. White master above, grant him your love. Most holy bastard of the bleating mouth, nigger Christ on the cross of the South. Christ in Alabama, Langston Hughes.
During the civil rights movement, we were trying to regain our dignity, and we switched from the word Negro, which ultimately we considered like derogatory too.
The underlying current of it, when I was coming up, it was a derogatory thing. It was a thing that you didn't want to deal with. That's why we went to black. Young, gifted, and black. Pretty black.
I'm not prejudiced because some of my best friends are colored, if you know what I'm talking about.
You ever know them dudes that get mad at the motherfucker, right? You be talking about,
Say, black boy. Say, man. What you mean, black? Baby, I'm colored. I don't play that shit.
It's interesting how black people in this society have always tried to constantly redefining themselves or re-identifying themselves.
Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of a black revolution and why black people have a right to take what's theirs. We're gonna walk on this racist power structure and we're gonna say to the whole damn government, stick 'em up, motherfucker.
In the Black Panther Party, we would not allow our children to use this word at all, any more than curse, believe it or not. Because we did know that language mattered. I mean, it's like talking about someone being dark or light and giving a value to that. Language is just a reflection of what people think and what the realities are. How do we define who black people are in America? Ultimately, of course, the party talked about revolutionary change in America, that in order for black people to be free, America had to change.
So many white folks in America keep wondering about what's wrong with them. Niggas must be crazy. No, baby, understand one thing. Niggas got more sense today than ever before in the history of America. And when niggas was basically crazy, that's when he thought we had good sense.
Why you gonna tell a black person that they can't have the freedom of speech? Huh? We ain't never told them they don't have the right to say MF. Oh, goddamn. You know? And I'm just thrilled to say that America, including black folks, is hung up with the word nigga. I love it.
A dispatch from Memphis mentions that of 2 Negroes lately sentenced to death for murder in that vicinity, one named Woods has just confessed to having ravished a young lady, for which deed another Negro was hung by an avenging mob. The evidence that doomed the guiltless wretch being a hat, which Woods stole from its owner and left behind for the purpose of misleading. Ah, well, too bad to be sure. A little blunder in the administration of justice by Southern mob law, but nothing to speak of. Only a nigger killed by mistake. That is all. From a short satirical essay by Mark Twain, 1877.
There's 3 comedic geniuses in the history of this country. One is Mark Twain, and the other 2 shouldn't even be mentioned in the same year you mentioned Mark Twain. Is Lenny Bruce and Richard Pryor.
When we heard Richard Pryor get on stage and perform and use the word nigger, it was a sense of empowerment. Here's this brilliant black comic who's taken this word to a new level.
No one could use the word more beautifully than Richard Pryor.
Don't worry, niggas, I'm with you. Go ahead.
You know, he is poet, he is genius, he is storyteller, he is language, he is everything.
Now that nigga's crazy.
Richard Pryor took the head off a lot of things. And he made people see, he made white people as well as black people and brown people start looking at the world differently and race relations differently.
I mean, they accidentally shoot more niggas out here than any place in the world. Every time you pick up a paper, nigga accidentally shot in the ass. How do you accidentally shoot a nigga 6 times in the chest? Well, my gun fell and just went crazy.
It separated him from the rest of the people because Bill Cosby wasn't using it, and the word connected him with his people in America. He made a real connection.
To me, it was just part of the toolbox, you know. In his case, perfect tool, and using it like a sledgehammer, not like a jeweler's screwdriver, you know.
And I remember tricks used to come through our neighborhood. That's where I first met white people. They come down through our neighborhood to help the economy.
Hello, little boys. Your mother home? I'd like a blowjob.
I wonder what would happen if niggas go through white neighborhoods doing that. Hey, man, is your mama home? Tell the bitch we want to fuck.
I'll see. So when Richard Pryor came on and made those amazing albums, we all thought it was funny, not so much because of the use of the term, but for the broader context of the humor. It's sort of like black humor without apology.
Niggas are the best of people that were slaves, you know what I mean? And that's how they got to be niggas, because they stole the cream of the crop from Africa and brought them over here, and God, as they say, works in mysterious ways, So he made everybody a nigga, because we was arguing over in Africa about the Watusi and the Buhada, the Wosuhumo, and the Zawunga, we talk in different languages. So he brought us all over here, the best, the kings, the queens, and the princesses, and the princes, You know what I mean? Shit, and put us all together and called one tribe, niggas.
It says something about the African American experience. It defines us in new and creative ways. And for us, it was something that I think many of us felt was very liberating about it.
My daddy's sucking the bowls and shit. Oh, goddamn. Nigga, you better get that meat out of there, motherfucker. Look at, there's some meat in there, nigga. Shit. Look down in there, boy. Look at that. Mother, shit. You don't throw shit away, nigga. Shit, better eat with your white friends.
For the older generation of blacks, people who had been called nigger on a regular, daily basis, to hear anyone use the word, even Richard Pryor, for all of his creative genius, was an offense, an insult, something that was unforgivable.
Lots of black people were offended by what he did, by his use of winos and junkies and these characters.
Can you get high off of some of this, nigga? Try some of that. What you trembling? No, you can't have none of this now. You gonna tremble, nigga. What's wrong with you? I'm sick, motherfucker.
And then also the fact that he used the N-word so liberally in depicting these people.
Oh shit, man. The motherfucking brother, the nigga told me I gotta have some money to get some dope.
The thing about Pryor was that Pryor was unlike Red Fox, who was in Chitlin circuit spots, unlike the Les Poets, who was sort of in black bohemian circles. Pryor played white clubs. He played integrated audiences.
Because ugly white women used to say they got raped by niggas. Hey, a nigga raped me. Yeah, and nigga, guys be going, hey, you sure? They go round up some niggas, like, you were down last week, you know what to do, don't you? Well, come on down again, will you? We gotta have a lineup.
There's always been an element in the white community of enjoying black people demeaning themselves and degrading themselves. From Uncle Toms to Shuffling Toms to be Amos and Andy to being fools. And so I don't know that we gain any respect from the white community. In fact, probably the opposite, because those images are not positive or ones you would gravitate to.
Saturday night, though, was, they always call it nigger night, because white folks go out about 8 and leave and go home at 10 and leave it to the niggers, because it gets thick. They can't handle it. You know what I mean? Too many niggas, when they found out niggas could talk other than do-wah-ho, they got scared to death. Like one day somebody said, nigga, talk. Well, motherfucker, I've been wanting to tell you something. I beg your pardon?
And he's probably the first black artist to then also challenge white listeners and make them think about the word nigger.
Right, and he go out, get clean, be driving with his old lady, going out to a club, and police pull over. Get out of the car, that was a robbery, a nigga looks just like you. All right, put your hands up, take your pants down, spread your cheeks. Now, what nigga feel like having fun after that?
When he used that word, it connected us all as human beings. It didn't separate us. That was the brilliance of it. Where the word is usually used to divide, somehow he used it to connect people. And I don't know how he did that, but he sure did.
You ignorant nigga. Hey, man, who you calling nigga, huh? I slap the taste out your mouth. You don't even know my name. I'll whoop your ass. Beat the white off your ass.
And yet, isn't it funny that Richard came towards the end to saying he's never going to use it again?
I went home to the motherland, and everybody should go home to Africa. I was leaving, and I was sitting in the hotel, and a voice said to me, look around, what do you see? And I said, I see all colors of people doing everything, And the voice said, do you see any niggas? I said, no. And I said, you know why? Because there aren't any.
Then Pryor has looked at the word in another way, and he sees it as an ugly word.
So he came into that, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the word was thrust upon him, and he said, I gotta switch. I can't feel the same about it.
And it made me say, oh my God, I've been wrong. I got to regroup my shit. I said, I ain't gonna never call another black man a nigga.
You had the genie out of the bottle situation, though, didn't you? Because once he repudiated it, it didn't stop anything.
There's a whole generation who, for his freedom, they took as their freedom. And they took it to a place that I think he couldn't even have imagined.
I
am the nigger. Singer of songs, dancer, softer than fluff of cotton, harder than dark earth. Roads beaten in the sun by the bare feet of slaves. Foam of teeth, breaking crash of laughter. Red love of the blood of woman. White love of the tumbling pickaninnies. Lazy love of the banjo thrum. Sweated and driven for the harvest wage. Loud laughter with hands like hams. Fists toughened on the handles. Smiling the slumber dreams of old jungles. Crazy as the sun and dew and dripping, heaving life of the jungle. Brooding and muttering with memories of shackles. I am the nigger. Look at me. I am the nigger. Nigger by Carl Sandburg from Chicago Poems, 1916.
I'm a man that's standing here on my own 2 feet. You know, I can use any word I want to use. At any time I want to use it. About anybody. And I'm not going to feel bad about that.
There's not a big difference between the way Pryor uses nigger and the way hip-hop uses nigger.
My niggas, some niggas that you don't wanna try. My niggas, some niggas ready to or die. My niggas.
No, as a matter of fact, there was a time in 88 and 89 where you couldn't use the word nigga because people looked at that word as being beneath our existence and understanding. You did go from Fight the Power to Gin and Juice in a 3-year period. But that was a 1989 to 1992 slide.
This is what it's all about! Doing this video, and it gotta be like that in the 90s for NWA.
You didn't hear nigger until pretty much NWA till the West Coast rap came.
Bullshit. Why do I call myself a nigga, you ask me? Well, that's because I'm all about that cash, G.
Initially, it was a situation where NWA came out where they were social documentarians of the LA scene.
Die, nigga! Die, nigga!
Dre and Easy, they pulled up and picked me up and said, you know what we're gonna call it? We're gonna call ourselves NWA. What the hell does that mean? Niggas with attitude, and I said, I like it.
I'm a motherfucking nigga with an attitude. I'm a motherfucking nigga with an attitude. I'm a motherfucking nigga with an attitude.
You know, we was kind of like wanting to be in your face.
When Ice Cube was using it, he was using it to portray rebellion.
Black people have done this with a lot of things, not just the word nigga. But we take this word that's been a burden to us, and we've been able kind of to digest it, spit it back out as more of a badge of honor, kind of like as defiance.
I really like the way black people have co-opted that word and turned it into their own, and trying to diffuse all the bad thing that it's supposed to be. But when I hear it, I can't help feeling just this ton of history of racism on it.
Personally, I find that the black community or the African American community has done a good job in the fact that they've overused the word nigger in rap and such other forms of media to the fact where it actually means nothing anymore.
A society does, in a sense, hold itself together by observing certain things about language. And when you see shifts in the use of language, it can indicate to you real shifts in the culture, what's happening in the society.
See this chamber right there? This is no bullshit. This is real. This is real.
9 millimeters in your ass.
9
Play that
millimeters.
Hollywood bullshit, man.
You gotta carry these or you get fucked up on the street. So you gotta be
And this got an
prepared.
infrared scope on it. You put the dot on your target, then you blow this shit out the motherfucker.
It was the projection of NWA by society as being the accepted way to go, as opposed to the brother and sister way to go that was coming up out of New York at that time. So society favored the whole degradation of black people as opposed to the movement that wanted to bring us into the human family on a higher terms.
See, that's what happened with hip hop. It became like Let's act like niggas. This is how niggas act. This is how real niggas act.
After NWA broke, everybody had I'm a Real Nigga song.
I put niggas on they back if I have to. And don't try me, homie, cause I'm a blaster.
It was like keep it real. It became like the slang. Bitch ass nigga, real nigga. Everybody had real nigga. Everybody, like 8 guys had songs called Real Niggas.
I think they see it as a way of setting them apart from other blacks who may feel that they've got too much invested in white mainstream society. But we are the real niggas. We are genuine.
Money, drugs, and guns and bitches. Hit that shit for all my niggas.
It became this whole thing that's associated with keeping it real, and it almost became like there's really 2 different black people.
It's like a civil war going on with black people, and there's 2 sides. It's black people, and there's niggas. The niggas have got to go. You know what the worst thing about niggas? The worst thing about niggas love to not know. Nothing make a nigga happier than not knowing the answer to your question. Just ask a nigga a question, any nigga. Hey, nigga, what's the capital of Zaire? I don't know that shit. Keeping it real. Niggas love to keep it real. Real dumb.
That idea that the guy who's been arrested, who's spent time, who's been out there in the gangs, who's had confrontations with the police, who really doesn't give a F, that's the real brother. That's the real black man, right? That whole phenomenon is connected to this wailing of the word nigga, is to MF this and MF that all the time, to bitch, they're all connected. See, nigga's just the beginning. See, what we always have to remember is this is product. You've got to always remember that this is product. And that there were characters in the minstrel shows in the 19th century who were just like these guys today. Because they had characters like Jasper Jack, who were full of sass, didn't put up with this and that, but they were coon figures. And that's what's happening now, is these people are like, this is a coon update. And it's not because these kids are monsters, it's because they're naive.
Well, I think hip-hop is more about just being truthful about the things that goes on around you. Or at least my hip-hop is, the things that I affiliate myself with. So if it's a truthful experience, it's almost like saying, can you tell Barbara Walters or Ted Koppel not to report the way it's going down, you know what I'm saying, to tell the truth.
To hear the truth of what's happening in our social behavior or in our political space, in a record, is offensive to many people. But it's necessary sometimes.
Even Q-Tip had a song called Suck a Nigga, in which he defended the use of the word nigga in such a way that it has been adopted by the black culture, particularly hip hop. I'm not necessarily in agreement with that. It's a reality, but I think it's a reality that needs to be changed.
The youth, the hip-hop generation is turning negatives into positives. All we're trying to do is do something positive and stuff like that. That's all we want is positivity. So we turn what you give to us that's negative, we turn it into positives. The hip-hop generation, we say nigga, that's us, that's what we do.
I see hip-hop as a positive cultural phenomenon that has transcended the history of white supremacy, the history of racism, the history of pitting one group against another group because of skin color, the history of class assignment in terms of some for the privileged, some for permanent poverty. I think hip-hop breaks all that up. Now, you gotta do more than just shatter the reality of what you may see as unjust. You gotta fill the void with something positive. And to me, the artists that have the attention and the mind of young people, they have a responsibility.
I do think it's used too commonly. I can understand where it would be used every once in a while because it is, an expression. But I refuse to believe that it has to be used as frequently as I've heard it used in some songs. For someone to call themselves an artist, I would think that they would have more creativity and be able to find other ways to express what they're feeling rather than using that word repeatedly.
I do believe that the N-word is used too commonly in rap music. It's taking something from out of the private sphere and bringing it to the public. Something that not necessarily should be shared with the public.
There's a lot of different kinds of rap music. Some is more socially conscious than others. I make a distinction between hip hop and rap music. I think when it's used in a socially conscious hip hop song, then it's fine. I think when it's used in more of a mainstream song, that it's probably not being dealt with on any real intellectual level and that it shouldn't be used.
The major question that lies before us is this. Is the fact that perhaps 100 black people at this point have become millionaires through this denigrating material worth the impact that it's had on black youth and on American society and on the international image of younger black people?
Well, I believe it's basically done already changed for younger people. I don't believe it's changed for people that's like in their 40s or in their late 30s. I don't think that the meaning nigga to them mean the same thing that it means to a younger generation.
A lot of young people today don't know too much about what that word means. A lot of people died due to that word.
I think it done set us back 100,000 years because that was a word we was trying to get around back in the day.
My grandmother uses it like that nigga over there, or that's a funny nigga, you know, and I don't know, when she grew up, that was the word she was fighting for.
The derogatory connotation and meaning of it still sits poorly with my spirit, my soul.
So are you personally conflicted about the use of this word? Because nigga is used on all your records.
Yeah, I'm personally conflicted, definitely. But you know, everything that I make isn't for kids, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just more about, in that respect, it's about, you know, the parents explaining it to the kids if they're gonna let the kids listen to certain things. You know what I'm saying? And make sure it's used in the proper tense, even though there is no proper tense for the word nigga, you know what I'm saying?
One day, a nigga caught in his hand a little star, no bigger than not to understand. I'll never let you go until you've made me white. So she did. And now, stars shine at night. E.E. Cummings, one day a nigga.
I was in Tower Records one day, a few years ago, and I heard these guys say, yeah, this nigga said so-and-so to me, and that nigga said blah, blah, blah. And I told that nigga boom, boom, boom. So I turned around the aisle because I was getting ready to say, look, man, what's wrong with you guys, right? I turned around the aisle, and there was a bunch of white guys with caps turned backwards and, you know, the oversized T-shirts and their pants about to hit the ground. And I said to myself, something's not correct at this moment.
So you want to know why we call ourselves niggas?
So you actually use that term niggers? Isn't that a derogatory term? I mean,
Nigger is a derogatory term. Niggas isn't.
Now, who the heck can tell the difference? I mean, that's just nonsense. I think it's a defense. It's to try to defend what they're doing, to say it's okay and we're onto some special thing here that you don't understand or appreciate.
I mean, the G-A-E-R syndrome. And if you hear E-R, you know, it's like, what? And if you hear G-A, somehow the thought is that there's some in rhythm, in understanding of how it's used.
They don't understand the persecutorial sense of the word. They think that it is cool. You know, I mean, you got Mexican kids calling each other that. You know, you got white kids calling each other. You got Chinese kids. And it all boils down to, you know, to the music, you know, and the culture and rap music and everything.
You know, some of them feel like they are niggas because they love hip hop. So hip hop's become its own race and culture. Like, they don't necessarily think they're black, but they think they're a nigga because it's hip hop.
You know, that happens to me more often than you think. That a white kid will walk up from you know, who's a fan of hip hop and says, yo, my nigga, what's up? Just wants to be your friend, just wants to speak your language. His intention is not to demean you.
It's sort of like the new hip hop pronoun, you know what I'm saying?
FM 98 WJLB, your #1 for hip hop.
The word still carries power to me.
The N-word.
MC Serch used the word a full time, but as he got hipper, didn't think it was worth it because there were some people who misunderstood his intention. But if his intention is only to endear himself to you or to be, you know, to be in, and I see it all the time, it never phases me. So of course, you know, that's just me being open-minded, but it's also this next generation will be open-minded.
Regarding whether white kids are able to use
the N-word because it is so common in the whole hip-hop culture. I don't know whether I would feel it comfortable. It does obviously lend itself to just a whole, why can't I use this because I'm part of this whole culture. But at the same rate though, I don't feel that they have the ability, they don't have the day-to-day education of being in that race and having the prejudices.
Hip-hop culture is this whole thing, and a lot of people want to be a part of it, even when they're white, and a lot of people, from the white suburbs want to be a part of it. They see it's there's a lot of parts of the culture that are really attractive.
I don't think it's a very positive word. I think it's a little bit degrading. I think it has a bad history. For a white person, I think it does. I hear it a lot in hip-hop and stuff like that in Australia. And usually the artist would be a black American, I guess. So I guess they have the right to the word. I feel they have more of a right to the word than a white man.
I get very offended because I do have black friends, and I would never use it regardless, like to say to a white friend or a black friend, so I don't feel that it's right to use the word at all.
A lot of people don't, a lot of black people don't really care if white kids use it just because it's really common now. So if you say it in a mean way, then I think it would bother people, but most people feel like, oh, what's up, my nigga? Most people wouldn't really care.
It's used by a lot of young people, I guess, on the street to try and be cool and try and copy American culture. A lot of ethnic groups. We have a lot of Greek, Lebanese.
I have imitated the use of the word in its context, based around a conversation, including it, repeating something someone said or something that someone might, I think, thought, repeating lyrics to music. But I do feel comfortable using the word if I feel comfortable with what I'm saying.
If you can flip that word, that bastion, horrible, powerful word, and flip it to having something that has affection and is harmless, then you can flip anything.
So, nigga is a word that was probably put down 300, 400 years ago when we got off a boat, and you had a marketing campaign turning around in a 15-year hip-hop period. That's crazy.
So I think that what we're witnessing is not so much the transformation of the term into something positive. It's a defense of the term when they're now up against the fence, up against the wall. When rappers are being criticized for using the term, they are coming up with some kinds of explanations or excuses to explain how it has this other meaning. And they're also in a strange situation where they're trying to defend young people, not all of them, but some people trying to defend, young white kids, who are insisting on their right to use the term.
Yes, I do believe it is appropriate to use the word nigger because everyone uses the word nigger, not just white people, not just black people. Nigger has become a word that we should all think about and know about and learn about. And it's just a word, nigger.
The word nigger is just as normal as any other word. I mean, there's black people, there's niggers, there's black people. It's all equal. I think it should all be used the same.
I think it's a double standard to say a certain group of people can use it in a certain context, but a white kid shouldn't. That's just setting a double standard. And I think the rap community has to take that burden upon themselves so that if they're going to say that word and use it explicitly in their lyrics, they have to be willing to deal with the consequences of white kids. And I'm not saying that's a good thing for white kids to be saying the word, but it's a consequence. Even if it's unintended, the rap community needs to address that. And if they don't like that, then they need to do something about their lyrics.
By allowing hip-hop to use the N-word, yes, we are allowing white kids to use it because they do purchase various hip-hop albums. They do support the genre, so by them purchasing it, they can use the words that they purchase.
I think it can be problematic to allow white kids to use the word because we're using it in hip-hop. But I do think that it allows white kids, as well as other kids of color, to have a space where they can talk about these issues. So if it's inciting these instigating rather, these kind of discourses, then I think that it's useful in some ways.
I don't really see the logic in the argument that if you allow hip-hop to use the N-word, you're allowing white kids to use it.
White artists within hip-hop I haven't personally heard them use that word. I've never heard Eminem use that word in any of his songs, so I don't think it's giving white kids a license to use it.
When you record it as entertainment and it gets to be popular and everything else, it's almost assigning the rights for permission to use it by everybody. And I do have a big problem when somebody outside of our race uses it. A big problem. It's just probably from the time I come from. And even if it's meant with the hip hop intention, all of that, that's cool. But I mean, I'm not comfortable hearing anybody use that any more than I hang out with Joe Pesci and De Niro and the dudes, then they would be comfortable with hearing Dago or WAP all day, especially if it's outside of the family.
Like, one of my best friends is Jewish, and she would I've said to her, you are my I'm not gonna use the word, but she would never say to me, you are my She just wouldn't. I think it's just a respect thing.
When white people are saying to other white people, what up, nigga, and nobody's getting their ass kicked, something's wrong.
It's just weird seeing it come from a young white male, hearing him say it. And I don't really think they really understand it.
I spend my money on cereal motherfucking day, nigga.
The word is, to me, almost used up to the point where it doesn't affect you at all, even white people say it.
What the fuck did you call me, man?
Nigga.
Man, come on, man. You know this motherfucker think he black as shit? Crazy ass motherfucker.
Chris Rock, in his famous Black People versus Niggers skit, on one version, he has a white guy coming up to him afterwards saying, I really love that skit, I really love that skit. Then the white guy uses the word nigger, and the next thing you hear on the tape is the white guy getting smacked. And what Chris Rock is saying, at least in that particular version of his skit, is, I can use the word nigger, white people can't. And a lot of people feel that way.
The only reason why I let my homies call me nigga, because we grew up with that. We're family. We understand the history of it and everything. You know what I'm saying? And so if a white person calls me a nigga, I'm gonna knock him out regardless.
Within the African American community, the word has been used and can be used, and it's something else. But African Americans still don't want to hear whites use it. Certainly not even Tarantino, the filmmaker, use it in the way that he does.
He writes in the tone of the world that he's envisioning during the moment. And there are times that I've colored what he's written with my own experience. So he's not to blame all the time for every nigga that he's been blamed for writing.
The way people talk to Sam Jackson, the way Sam Jackson uses it in talking to other people, seems organic to those characters. Tarantino in that scene, there's a reason he has the scene where he does that. His take on popular culture is really strong, and the way he uses it within his work. But the fact is that he obviously feels some need to prove something to someone that has nothing to do with any discussion of popular culture. It has to do with whatever his demons are.
Because the truth is, white people do say shit like that, fucked up racist shit. He's portraying a person who's maybe a fucked up racist, but it's true. It doesn't mean, oh, well, I'm gonna be politically correct and not have my, not gonna have any racist people in my movies because they're racist people in real life. So I'm forgiving of that.
Do we censor him because he's white? Or do we censor somebody else because they aren't good? I mean, you know what I mean? So what are the standards?
This word, it's like the only thing white people can't do. That's the only reason it gets anybody writes about it or anything. It's like white people can't believe there's a thing that exists they can't do.
You go, Chris Rock. Yep, that's the only thing white people can't do, and Asians too. I don't think they can.
The worst thing of all is that once this phenomenon becomes internationalized, you have a problem like a friend described to me, which is that this buddy of his, black guy, went to do a deal in Japan. So the Japanese, trying to keep up to date with what was going on in America, had been listening to these rap videos and looking at this and that. And so when he comes to the airport, a businessman, right? They greet him as he gets off the plane with, "Hi, nigga."
Good morning, nigga. Good morning to you, nigga.
I remember seeing that in a Japanese magazine once I was looking at things that they were all written in Japanese. Then I got to one part that it said nigga. I said nigga, fuck, motherfucker, etc., right?
And so I was looking at that, so I asked the Japanese drummer, and I said, Keiji, what is that? He said, oh, nigga, bitch, fuck, motherfucker. Very famous in Japan.
Are we some dumbass niggas or what?
But they thought that was what was going on because that was what the imported material gave them the impression that that was what you say.
Yo! Did somebody order a case of 40s? We did, nigga!
When you're called a nigger, you look at your father. Because you think your father can rule the world. Every kid thinks that. And then you discover that your father cannot do anything about it. So you begin to despise your father. And you realize, oh, that's what a nigger is. James Baldwin.
One of the attractions to me of exploring this word is that it's a very powerful word. It's generated lots of controversies. And like anything that's powerful and controversial in American life, it ends up in the courts.
And you say on your oath that you have not addressed any black person as a nigger or spoken about black people as niggers in the past 10 years, Detective Furman.
That's what I'm saying, sir.
I think that if one were to trace the history of the term the N-word, I think the O.J. Simpson case would be quite central in that history.
Under Judge Lance Ito's ruling, however, they will be restricted to 2 instances where Furman utters the so-called N-word.
That's when the N-word as a euphemism was popularized.
It just shows how much fear we have of the symbols of language.
The N-word has been called the filthiest, dirtiest, nastiest word in the English language. So should it be eliminated, or would it be more beneficial to preserve it, even try to rehabilitate the N-word?
It's funny, I mean, it's become such a source of comment and controversy now that people find all kinds of ways around it without saying it. You know, they call it the N-word, the magic word, you know, derogatory term. Sometimes they just make a face, and that's when he called him.
The song I'm Real contains a word in the remix, and I understand it's going to be on the CD soon, the N-word. Pardon me for saying it.
See, the interesting thing is you look for censorship usually from the right, generally as an overstatement, an oversimplified statement. Generally comes from the right wing. And this is censorship from the left wing. It's a new orthodoxy from the left wing, and I'm not comfortable with it from either side.
Can you imagine Jews one day getting so upset and embarrassed for what the Germans did to them that they let the Germans change the word swastika to the S word and concentration camp to the C word? You have destroyed history.
The fact that the word's been spoken before, the fact that it's been written before, the fact that there are places you can go and see it means that it's always going to be in existence. You can't just dismiss it by beeping it out in, a television program.
A couple of years ago, a college professor in Kentucky did just what you're doing, tried to explore the power of the word. Fired. Why? The context always gets lost in the firestorm. The uproar will be that you used it.
Well, we're teachers, for God's sakes.
Choose another topic. Something lighter, like the death penalty.
Should it not be used? Yeah. Is it gonna not be used? No. Hell no.
This word for good and for ill is part of our culture.
If we let a white racist system get by with changing N-word for nigger, then one day they'll change L for lynch. Because I could never be a nigger. I could be lynched.
Well, first thing, the word is not going to be stopped until you have a completely different country.
If folks wanted to just use it, and let's get rid of all these other problems we got.
Nigga.
Hike.
Honky. Dago.
All these other, barriers we got racially.
Boogie. Bick. Gringo. Cracker. Coon.
And all these other hang-ups we got culturally.
Pig. Damn nigger. Nick. Polak. Lousy wops.
They could use it all they want to.
Nigger. I think the word nigger should be censored because they censor bitch and other bad words. So if they were going to censor those words, I think they should censor nigger as well.
I don't believe in censorship in general, so I don't believe that it would be very productive to censor the N-word.
I do think that the N-word should be bleeped out from various broadcasts, including radio and television.
I don't think that it should be censored just because it is a word and we do have to accept it as a word as long as it's not used in a derogatory way. Say, for example, like a news broadcast, I think that would be acceptable just because that's a reality that it is used.
Just getting rid of the word isn't going to make a lot of problems go away.
A handful of executives at Texaco's New York headquarters were caught on tape talking about black employees asking to celebrate an African holiday. One says expletive deleted N-words. They've blanked all over us with this.
According to the employee, Schott often demeaned any and all who weren't white and Christian. She's also been accused of, but denies, calling 2 of her former star outfielders my $1 million niggers.
Oh, look, it's a nigger, and they're like, began to walk up close, and Isaiah was screaming. Then they shot him at close range with a shotgun. Eric was like, Dylan, man, look at his brains. Isn't that awesome?
Robert Byrd, Democrat, West Virginia. This is back in 2001. He said, in reference to a question, there are white N-words. I've seen a lot of white N-words in my time, if you want to use that word.
Why all the fuss over a word? This word, niggardly. It may sound like a slur, but it has no racial connotation, and first was used at least 600 years ago. The definition, stingy, miserly.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Howard.
But niggardly is a word that cost David Howard a top job in the administration of Washington, D.C.'s new mayor, Anthony Williams.
I regret we're in the kind of climate and context we're in.
You kicked him and stomped and said, kill a nigga, and kill a nigga. That's not racism and hate.
I think people, if they find that it's doing us damage, they may move away from the word. And I think right now maybe we're grappling the fact that people are discussing this, the fact that there's other opinions.
We're creative people. We've taken words like dope and made it something cool, like, yo, man, that shirt is dope.
Black people didn't invent nigga. That was thrown at us. And then all of a sudden, us accepting it is like somebody just catching garbage and loving it.
I learned a long time ago the word didn't give me any strength. It didn't, one, they can say it's a word of endearment, but I'm not endeared by that word. Call me brother. If you don't want to call me brother, call me John. If you don't want to call me John, call me Mister.
In the same ways that Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton were telling people to curse and just to let it out, you know what I'm saying? Like, allow yourself to deal with the negative that goes on in the world. Like, everything is not positive. And in order to change things, sometimes you have to deal with the positive and the negative, and that's what they were trying to show. And in a lot of ways, that using that word and flipping it had empowered a lot of people.
You can't be uneducated and accept ignorance and treat each other that way in a culture where everybody else is not doing it. And in a world where that's not the norm, you can't compete. You can't, and that is really a shame because we have so much talent and ability. And as a people, we really have such a grandeur and a beauty. And we have allowed ourselves, and not just allowed, I mean, it's been forced upon us, but we've taken to it in this generation.
We wasn't gonna go for that, some bougie, black man or woman trying to tell us that we shouldn't use the word because of the history of the word. But they use it every day in private, but we can do it in private, but just don't do it in public,
Men and women, for instance, say things to each other in private that they're not gonna say at a dinner table with somebody else, right? That's just how that goes. Now, if they get to the point, though, that becomes chic, if you will, to refer to each other using terms that they use in private, then you're going down a decadent road.
It's a word that should be used in the appropriate place and at the appropriate time.
If I could find the spot where truth echoes, I would stand there and whisper memories of my children's future. I would let their future dwell in my past so that I might live a brighter now. Now is the essence of my domain, and it contains all that was and will be. And I am as I was and will be because I am and always will be that nigga. I am that nigga. I am that nigga. I am that timeless nigga that swings on pendulums like vines through minds of booby-trapped minds that are enslaved by time. I'm the light that supersedes lifetimes. I am. It was me with serpentine hair and a timeless stare, that with a mortal glare turned mortal fear into stone time capsules. They still exist as the walking dead, as I do. The original sufferhead, symbol of life and matriarchy, severed head, Medusa, I am. It was me, the ecclesiastic one, that pointed out that there was nothing new under the sun, and through times of laughter and times of tears, so that no times are real times, because all times are fear. The wise seer, Solomon, I am. It was me with tattered clothes that made you scatter as you shuffled past me on the street. Yes, you shuffled past me on the street as I stood there conversing with windblown spirits, and I fear it's your loss that you didn't stop and talk to me. I could have told you your future as I explained your present, but instead on my wholeness get to frank that you resent for being aimless, the intuned nameless. I am that nigga. I am that nigga. I am that nigga. I'm a Negro, yes, Negro. Negro from necro, meaning death overcame it, so they named me after it. And I be spitting at death behind and putting kick me signs on its back, because I am not the son of shaklack clack. I am before that. I am before. I am before. Before death is eternity, after death is eternity. There is no death, there's only eternity. And I be riding on the wings of eternity like shaklack clack. I exist like Spitfire, but you call the sun. Try to map out your future with sundials, but tech technology can no TikTok me. I exist in between tick and tock, dodging it like double dutch. Got me living double time. I was here before your time, and my heart is made of the quartz crystals that you be making clocks out of. And I be resurrecting every third like tick 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 clack clack. No, I don't work a 9 to 5 because I'm setting suns and orange moons, and my existence is this, still yet ever moving, and I'm moving beyond time because time binds me, it can set me free, and I'll fly when the clock strikes me like clack clack, but my flight doesn't go undisturbed because time makes dreams defer, and all of my time fears are turning my days into daymares. I live daymares, reliving nightmares that once haunted my past. Clack clack, time is beating my ass, and I be having dreams of chocolate-covered watermelons filled with fried chicken like piñatas, little pickaninny sons and daughters standing up under them with a big 6 aluminum foil, hitting them trying to catch pieces of fallen fried chicken wings, and Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben are standing in the corners with rifles pointing at the heads of little children. Don't shoot the children, I shout. Don't shoot the children, but they say it's too late. They've already been infected by time. I need more time. That's preoccupation with time, but it's too late. It starts shooting at the children and killing them 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5, 6 by 6, but my spirit is growing 7 by 7, faster than the speed of light, because light only penetrates the darkness that's already there, and I'm already there. I'm here at the end of the road. It's the beginning of the road beyond time, but where my niggas at? Oh shit, don't tell me my niggas got lost in time. My niggas are serving unjust time. My niggas are dying because of time. The name of the poem is Shaklack Clack. My name is Saul Williams.
Word! I consider myself a nigga, more so than I do an American, more so than I do an African American. You know, when people ask me what I am, I'm a nigga, because to me that means something.
It's like Jesse Jackson saying we should call ourselves African Americans. I can't figure out why.
I'm not an Afro American. I'm not Negro and I'm not colored. I'm not an Afro American. I mean, if we're gonna be real about it, huh? I'm a stolen African. How about that?
I just say I'm an African lost in America.
And I don't even like Africans. I don't, because we waited and they didn't come for us. That's why I don't like them. And I don't like that whole roots thing about going over to the village and finding my village. I was stolen. Come over here to the projects and find me.
If the racist guy from Alabama in 1963, you know, you see the tape, you see the film with the cop with the fire hose and they're hitting the black marchers. If he was around today and he's looking at he's probably going, well, what can I say now?
People all over the world, you know, they listen to black music, they buy food at McDonald's, and they know the word nigga. I mean, you know, that's American culture.
It's in vogue, and who knows where it's gonna go.
Niggas going nowhere.
I think for us, it's going the way of the Mammy cookie jars and all of those, you know, Coon Chicken Inn posters, you know, all those things. It's become part of the lexicon of our history, one that we know, and we hear it and we laugh because it's a funny word.
Hey, it's, you know, it's our word. And if I can use it to my advantage, my God. I have so many disadvantages and, you know, coming up. If one word can help me out, thank God I get the break for once.
And I guess that's the answer to the N-word. How much power it has is in your control. There's so many, and yet only ours seems to ring a bell with people. The people are scared to say spit, because they know they'll get caught. Everybody uses nigga, but who uses spit? And try to go down to Chinatown and say chink and see what happens. See, people aren't as daring as they think.
Ice Cube's a very key figure in the nigger. He's a very pivotal nigga.
Nigga's like a modifier, you know? There's nigga please, that stupid nigga, fuck that nigga, fuck you nigga, I'll fuck that nigga up. Fucking nigga go very closely associated, actually.
Nigger's no more gratuitous than, you know, fuck or shit or damn, right? I mean, everything's gratuitous now. So, you know, don't pick on nigga.
1-800-dollar nigga. To blame a nigga. That's my favorite joke. Explain that. Blame a nigga. The white person calls up and goes, hello, blame a nigga? I said, yes. I'm white. I just had a head-on collision on the freeway. I have a life. I have a career. I can't go to jail. Please send me a nigger over to take my place. I said, okay. You paid up? Yeah. We'll send one right over. He's on parole. God bless you, blame a nigga. God bless you. Ring. Hello? Blame a nigga? Yes. I just want to say nigga. Click.
Because you got to remember now, being a nigga, you know what I'm saying, it's a good paying job. You understand what I mean? So before I could tell somebody to quit their job being a nigga, you know what I'm saying, they got to see being black work for me.
Nigga town, where niggas reside. Nigga fit to act. Niggerati, the rich and famously black.
We running out of words because the average person is talking like, you know what I mean? See what I'm saying? Yo, for real, right? I'm saying though, for real. Yo, them niggas right there, I'm telling you, for real, right? That's not even Ebonics, man. That's like, yo, you regurgitating, you know, particles of the language. You're not even, you have no language there. It's this motion, is going back into Neanderthalism or something. Because, you know, you gesturing and grunting.
I mean, I say it 100 times every morning. It makes my teeth white. Nigga, 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 nigga.
Somebody call me a nigga, I wouldn't be, you know, like, man, I gotta kill him, you know, white, black, or whatever, you know. Now, if you call me a bitch, you got problems, you know what I mean? If you call me a bitch, you got problems. That's a word that get me, you know, when used on me, gets my blood going.
I was born October 12, 1932, went to college in 1952. And that was the first time I didn't have to say yes or no, sir, to white folks. And the first time white folks had to call me by my name. Man, that blew me away. That alone almost wrecked my life, man.
When white people owned black people as slaves, we lived in their houses, inside their houses, slept in their beds. When we got free, they didn't want us in the neighborhood.
You know what's gonna happen eventually? Eventually, if everybody's the same, you know what's gonna be? Let's say everybody's exactly the same, except for short and tall. That's gonna become a thing. Let's go get the short people. Look at that, I want them short fucks and then have some name for it.
Nigga fit to savagely lose one's composure, as in pitch a bitch.
Because they asked me about J-Lo saying nigger in her, and I said, well, she's Puerto Rican, I thought she was a nigger. And plus she was screwing Puffy, so it means she has black in her in more ways than one, so.
And it's just one of those great tripping words, niggas, you know, spooks, Negroes. You know, there's a lot of them.
We're bored, stiff, we have too much. That's why real TV is big. I'm pushing one for Fox, I don't know if they're gonna buy it. Celebrity Outhouse. See your favorite celebrity take a crap. You think it would get high ratings? Brad Pitt's crapping tonight. I gotta get home.
People of color. It's just a switch on colored people. If you ain't supposed to say, and it's not very elegant to say colored people, and you shouldn't want to say people of color. It's a formalization of a slur, and it's supposed to have more dignity in it because of its structure, but it ain't. It's the same fucking thing. And Native American ain't right because they came over the Bering Land Bridge. Ain't no natives anywhere except the people who still live in the Rift Valley in Africa. Everybody's a visitor. Everybody's from out of town on this whole goddamn planet.
Thank God you cleared that up.
Actually, since 9/11, everybody's a nigga now. If you don't believe it, go to the airport.
Let's search.
Go. You think you're white and privileged? Go to the airport.
Yeah.
They're looking up booty holes. Go on over there. Go on over there. Everybody is. Everybody's. I like it. I like it because everybody's a nigga now. Welcome to the club.